Okay, welcome everybody to the next tutorial of the G63 AMG series. Today we are taking a look at the front lights. Last episode we took a look at the rear lights, and we will do something very similar but a bit more complex for the headlights today. So we already have VRED set up in a way that we can use it. So we got our layout, we got all the editors open, and we got our scene graph on the left side. We are in the right camera, which is important, which is the one I created in the episode 4 of the tutorial series and animated in episode 5. So it's already animated, has 4 shots, and is set up and ready. So as I said, today we are going to look at creating the headlight glow effect. And there are several ways to do that. I've chosen maybe a bit of a special way, based on feedback and a conversation I had with Pascal about how to control it best, and I used his advice on that one to recreate it for my scene as well. For more, let's say, in-depth or other tutorials, also check out his channel. I'll put it into the description box, so just scroll down and you have a direct link to his channel, because I think he did something very similar, a little bit more advanced even for his BMW scene. As I already said last time, in the rear lights we had a bit of a special situation where we have a combination of an emissive geometry, which is in this case the light guide here, and the lens flare on top of it. And feel free to change it. As I said, this is something that's a personal preference on how it should look, or how people like it. So today this is a little bit different. We could do the same. We could place a little element in here and make it emissive to have the light bulb itself represented, but I didn't do it in this case. And let's take a look at how I did it. Let's turn on the lights. I've imported the lights of the original scene, so I can just turn them on for reference. And those are the four lights that we will create today, and that are forming the headlight glow effect. So as you can already see, we've split it up. So in the back, or in the rear lights, we only have the 2 lens flare effects. On the front light, we have like 4 of them, and you can see that I divided it between 2 based on a hint from Pascal. One is glow, which is basically simulating, and let's turn it on so I can show it better to you. Which is basically only creating the glow effect itself. So that's just simulating the light bulb and its, behavior based on emitting the light inside of this headlight. And then there is an additional element which is just barely noticeable, but it's a lens flare, or here you can see it nice, a ghost line. And this ghost line, which we discussed in the last episode already, is an additional element of a lens flare, which is not local and static at the center of the light source, but it is a line, or it is oriented and positioned along a line, and can be adjusted in the scene. So let's see. Before talking about it, I'll just show to you ghost line. You can see there are different elements on the ghost line. Those are those little dots that you can see here. And they have different colors, different areas, and in this way you can simulate how a real lens would behave if it would be like looking into a very bright light source. And I have that twice, of course, because we have 2 light sources. So now you can see there's one and there is another one. And I think the main reason to split it up is to control it better, because otherwise you have to work around a lot with those internal elements and intensities of it and so on and so forth. And if we split it up, we have the option to create a glow that is a bit more heavy in terms of visibility, and we can control the intensity of our lens flare or ghost line, whatever you want to call it, separately. So that's the only reason that why we split it up, to have better control over the intensities of it. Okay, so let's recreate that. Let's turn it off first, or let's turn it off here. And as you can see, there's nothing emissive, right? We already set up the camera nicely, but there is an emissive element, which you can't see right now, which is this ring outside. So if I choose the original camera from the actual scene, you can see that it's glowing here because the glow threshold is sensitive enough to identify this as a glowing object, which our tutorial camera right now is not set up for. So what we need to do first is we need to go into the camera editor, select our tutorial camera that we created, and go to image processing and reduce the threshold of the glow. And that's basically the sensitivity that is applied to identify a pixel that is bright enough to be considered for a glow effect, so to put a glow effect on top of it. And the lower it is, less selective it is, so the more elements will start to glow. The higher it is, the brighter the element needs to be considered, or the difference between the elements. If we reduce it, let's say about that much, so 0.3 roughly, will allow this to glow. And of course, that's something that you need to adjust later on, because this glow is affecting the whole scene, right? So you can see that the dashboard starts to glow right now as well, and then there's this reflection which starts to glow. So it's really something that you need to set up like whatever fits for your scene. As you can see in the original file, we had 0.36. So let me just do that as well, because we know that it worked out. Here we go. So we're set up for that. Camera is fine. Let's go back to the lights. Go to the light editor, and we create a spotlight again, as we did it for the rear lights as well. And as I said, this time I'm not going to create an emissive object in the center. I'm going to fake this with the lens flare itself, with the glow. So going back to the perspective camera, because we have this glow problem. And last time, in the last video, I messed something up. I didn't go back to my cinematic camera, which you should always do when you're working on setting up your lights, because that's basically the camera that is helping, or that gives you the true picture of how your lights look like. As you can see, just placing it roughly where it should be. Something that we shouldn't do roughly is the rotation, so I'll go do 90 negative to have it looking straight forward, and maybe a bit more to the left. Should be fine. Here we go. It's roughly in the center of the light bulb. I think that's important, because what we want to do is we want to create this light bulb, or at least an effect that looks like there was the light bulb. So, and this shouldn't be off, right? It shouldn't be here, because then, yeah, I think you get the point. So yeah, I think that should be fine for now. Let's see if we can make it better later on. And go back to the light editor, and something that we did do for the last lights as well. We don't want it to illuminate the scene, which it does right now. So as you can see, there's a little bit of light here. We are on OpenGL anyway, so yeah, just turn it off. We don't want the light to light the scene. We want the lens flare to work. But something that we need to do when we position it properly is to turn off the display light visualization, or to make sure to not see this auxiliary representation of the light, because that's messing. And this is the mistake I did last time. Now that we're going into setting up the actual effect, go back to your cinematic camera, tutorial camera in this case, and position the light at the center of your viewport, because this is where the angular aspect, or the angular intensity, is the highest. Everybody who saw the last tutorial about the rear lights knows already what this is all about, but let's take a look at it again. So call it tutorial headlight glow, and we are on the right side. Right. Headlight glow right. And enable the lens flare. Again, choose one, headlight blue steel or headlight ring burst. You already see which one I took for my scene. Of course I took that one. Yep. So that's the one that we're choosing, and you can see that I didn't do much with the ghost line, right? The only thing I did with the ghost line is making it less visible, and maybe I removed that one because that's pretty bright. But you can see that I stayed pretty much to what the original is about. And now again, go back to custom because we want to customize it based on the initial setup of the preset. Something we will do immediately is turn off the ghost line, because as I said, this ghost line will be in another object or in another light, because we want to control it separately. So to not get confused, let's turn that off and then take a look at the intensity, because I think it's a bit too bright right now. So what we can do is we can reduce the intensity a little. I think that looks okay. And then now we gotta work ourselves through the different elements and see if they make sense for us. So I can't see that starburst, so I'll just turn it off. Close center, very visible one. And that's what I wanted to show you. You could easily also create like just a sphere, put it at the right spot, make it emissive as well. But I think you have the better control if you do it via the lens flares, because we can create several of them. So it's definitely too big. So something that I want to reduce is the size to make it look like it would be the light bulb, maybe something like, I don't know, something like that. And again, always make sure to have it in the middle of the screen, because you can already see that it's changing quite dramatically if it's moving to the sides, which actually means that we should increase the intensity a little bit. So it's, yeah, I think that's better. And in this case, I don't want to, like, I think the angular intensity change is too much because we're talking about headlights here. So let's reduce that a little to maybe, let's say 0.7, and then increase the intensity. And again, only do that if you are in the middle, if the light is in the middle of your viewport. And that's a little bit better. I don't know, maybe a little bit more. Because I always want this to be on, even if it's at the, yeah, I think that should be pretty good. Okay, now we need to like build up this the elements in there, and there's a lot of good stuff already in it. Something that we did already is changing that size. I would make it a bit smaller, but then duplicate it, and this will be that one. Increase the size but decrease the intensity. So what I do with that is I'm actually creating the glow effect for the actual light bulb. So you can also put that to 2. And the last one should be way, yep. Intensity is reduced. Got a good feather. I think that should be fine. Yeah, maybe a little bit more on that. And less. And as you can see, you need to play around with that, right? Yeah, I think that's better. Yep. Yep. Yeah, play around with that, play around with the elements. I think a lot of the elements are very nice, like the streaks here in this case, I like them. We got a glow, which is the big glow. You can always, and I think that's something, and an outer glow, which is a very big one. You can always, something that you can always do is like adding layers of glows on top of each other, which I think works very nicely. You only need to make sure that the intensities are set up correctly. So if you want to just have a glow effect of an emissive light, like we did it here, we basically, like the thing that simulates our light bulb has a huge intensity, and the glow fall off to the side is reduced in the intensity. And in this way, you get this kind of effect, right? Okay, but that's only the one aspect. As I said, we want to split it up into two. So what I'm doing now is I turned off the ghost line here, and I only have those glow elements which are in the center of this light emissive, theoretical emissive light source that we have here. And if I just duplicate, you can see we're duplicating the whole thing. But then I go in, rename it. It's still right, but it's not glow, it's flare, whatever you want to call it, ghost line. And now I do the exact opposite for that one. I turn everything off. Besides the ghost line. That's it. And now I have the possibility to change the size and intensity of the ghost line independent of the intensity of this glow effect that we put on top of the front light. So as you can see, this is a bit heavy. That's why let's go into the ghost line, try to figure out where this element is that we don't like. So that's one. Just select it, hit delete. And that one. You could also, maybe let's not delete it, maybe let's reduce it in intensity, which I think is better. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm fine about the rest. Might be a bit too bright in general, so can turn down the intensity a little bit, but I think that I'm fine. Yep, I think that's it already. Of course, you can continue tweaking it to your needs, right? So whatever you think makes more sense for you. But again, before we do that, let's go into Scene Graph, select the two light sources, go to Edit, duplicate, and mirror on the x-axis. So we will have it on the other side, and voila, we turn on the lights. And if we move them, we get all the effects that you might have seen in the video as well. So let's play the animation. And you can see how the stuff changes. You can, of course, adjust it. Maybe it's a bit too bright now. Maybe you want to have it a bit brighter or not. That's up to you. And yeah, I think that would be it for the lights. As you can see, it's not magic, but you need to know how to approach it. And I think then it's very easy to do, because basically there is no secret trick behind it, right? It's trial and error. It's working from the presets. So very important. One thing that took me a huge amount of time to understand. That's why I repeat it very often in this tutorial. Make sure to use the right camera when you're looking into your, or when you're setting up your lens flares or light sources or whatever, because it's heavily dependent on how the camera is set up. Secondly, if you're working with lens flares, make sure if you set them up to position them at the center of your viewport if you're working with angular intensity, because otherwise you'll get into trouble once you move it and it doesn't look like you expected. So if I would have set it up from this view and then move it, it would be definitely too bright once it moves in the center, into the center of the viewport. But besides that, as you can see, there's not much magic about it. So yeah, there's of course one last remark. Maybe there's downsides and or pros and cons for both approaches. As I said at the beginning, you could have also created a emissive light source, like a small sphere that you place in the front light. In OpenGL, I think this way is better, because you can really simulate the effect of the light and how it should look like, and control the close very nicely. In ray tracing, though, it's totally fine to use this emissive light source, because it works way better, because it's really calculated. So again, this is just for OpenGL, where we have to work around some aspects, because we don't have that precision of rendering and light computation that we have in ray tracing. Yeah, but as I said, maybe just a different approach on how to set up lights in VRED through lens flares, and also fake the glow and the emissive light source through a lens flare. Yeah, maybe just for your creativity to use it for your own projects, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, I think we are pretty close to finalizing the project. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention around the light setup. And if you have any questions, feel free as always to write it into the comments. I do my best to answer it. If you have feedback on how to improve the tutorials, let me know in the comments as well. Something that might make sense now, as I'm already done with this tutorial series, you can write into the comments what you would like me to cover in the next series. Okay, so with that being said, thank you very much for checking into this tutorial today, and have a great day, everybody. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and we'll see each other in the most likely last episode of this tutorial series. Thank you very much.